You ever hear an album that didn't just sound good, but it shifted something within you? Like you remember where you were when it dropped? You remember what the cover looked like, what your favorite bar was, and how the whole culture moved different after it hit? Like when Kendrick dropped To Pimp a Butterfly and made an entire generation sit with jazz, trauma, and self love in the same verse. Or when Lauryn Hill gave us Miseducation, one album with no skips, and somehow still more impactful than most full careers. And then there's The Blueprint, where Jay Z drew the manual for how to run the rap game. But before all that, there were some other masterpieces. Albums like Nas' Illmatic. You know how some rappers spend 5 albums trying to find their voice? Yeah, Nas found his in like 10 tracks. Illmatic isn't just a debut album, it's a blueprint for debut albums. The man was 20 years old and was sounding like he'd already lived 3 lifetimes in Queensbridge. From the first beat drop on New York State of Mind, it's like he's dragging you through alleyways and stairwells, painting these vivid scenes with this cold, almost unshakable calm. You're not just listening to Nas, you're there. In fact, Memory Lane actually feels like one. And the production? Wow. Premier, Pete Rock, and Large Professor, all these legends came together like it was some sacred project. But they weren't overpowering him, they were building the canvas while Nas was the brush. But while Nas was painting pictures of Queensbridge with surgical bars, across the country, a whole different kind of rawness was starting to rise. It was a different coast, different sound, but just as legendary. Number 2, Dr. Dre's The Chronic. If Illmatic was street poetry, The Chronic was a sonic slap in the face. It didn't just change rap, it rewired it. Like, Dre didn't just make an album, he created a whole new sound. This album is Dre's world, with the synths swirling, the bass lines grooving, and Parliament samples sneaking in the back. The West Coast had a vibe, but Dre gave it a voice, a laid-back, confident, but still dangerous voice. And then there's Snoop with the effortless cadence and tone, the way he just slides on beats like melted butter, and that intro on Nothing But a G Thing that sounded like the arrival of a new kind of cool. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't trying too hard, he was just him, and that was enough to change everything. This album wasn't just about flexing, it was about dominating. You could feel Death Row's rise happening in real time. Dre had something to prove after leaving NWA, and he proved it on every single track. But speaking of producers who changed the game, what happens when the rapper is the producer, and he's got something to say? Number 3, Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Okay, look, this is what happens when a man goes into exile, builds a volcano in Hawaii, and records inside it. This album is chaos. It's theater. It's ego, pain, and perfection all slammed into a glass box and shattered on purpose. Kanye was cancelled before canceling was even a trend. After the Taylor Swift moment and the public meltdowns, people thought he was done. So what did he do? He locked himself in a studio with a whiteboard full of ideas and made what some people call one of the greatest hip-hop albums ever. Every song feels like a movie. The production is absurdly layered with strings, choirs, Bon Iver, and Nicki Minaj doing Shakespearean voices out of nowhere. Runaway is 9 minutes of self-sabotage, and somehow it slaps. Power sounds like a war anthem. It's all too much, but in the best way possible. And here's the wild part. Under all that noise and luxury, Kanye was hurting. I mean, really hurting. But while Kanye made pain sound like opera, some albums do the opposite. They strip it down. Number 4, Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. From the second Wesley's theory kicks in, this album pulls you in. The jazz horns, the funk breaks, and the sermon-like verses all come together to take you through an experience. A Kendrick experience. It literally sounds like what would happen if Parliament, Gil Scott-Heron, and Tupac got trapped in an art museum with a mic. On this album, Kendrick wasn't rapping for radio. He was rapping like he was on trial. Like he had an entire generation's weight on his shoulders and every line had to count. And it's obvious. All Right became an anthem. The Blacker the Berry was like a confession, and You made you uncomfortable on purpose. This wasn't background music. It demanded your attention. It was layered, challenging, uncomfortable, and straight up brilliant. And beyond the art was the timing. This album dropped just as the Black Lives Matter movement was rising. So it wasn't just music, it was a statement, a syllabus, a sermon in 16-bar increments. But where Kendrick gave us protest poetry and vulnerability wrapped in art house soundscapes, the next album said, cool, but what if we just made it a movie? Number 5, 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Look, you can say what you want about 50 now. Yeah, he's the rapper turned film executive, the Instagram troll, and the worst person to have beef with right now. But back in 03, 50 Cent was terrifying. He didn't walk into the rap game, he kicked the door off the hinges wearing a bulletproof vest and a mixtape catalog. Get Rich or Die Tryin' is more than an album, it's a survival story. It was the soundtrack to the story of a dude who got shot 9 times, got signed by Eminem and Dr. Dre, and then made the streets dance. The duality was insane. Many Men was about grief and vengeance. In the Club was every birthday party anthem for the next decade. And say what you want about his lyricism, those hooks were unreal. 50 knew how to make gangsta rap digestible for the charts without softening the edges, and that's a superpower we don't acknowledge enough. The whole album plays like a street documentary shot on luxury film. It's raw but weirdly high class. But while 50 was turning street anthems into global hits, this next album went in the complete opposite direction. Number 6, CLIPSE's Hell Hath No Fury. Listening to this album feels like watching a crime thriller with no soundtrack. It's just pure dead-eyed narration and cold-blooded bars. It sounds like it was recorded in a snowed-out trap house with busted windows and nothing but confidence to keep warm. Pusha T and Malice weren't trying to make hits. They were telling detailed, matter-of-fact, almost surgical stories, and it's crazier when you discover that Pharrell and Chad didn't give them flashy beats. They gave them space. Dark, empty space that forced you to hear every single syllable. What's wild is how anti-radio this project is. There were no big hooks and no easy choruses, all tone and tension, and yet, that's exactly why people consider it a masterpiece. It's locked in its own atmosphere, and honestly, it aged better than 90% of 2000s rap. Speaking of the 2000s, number 7, OUTKAST's Aquemini. Let's be real, OUTKAST doesn't have a best album. They have several, and people just pick whatever flavor fits their mood. But Aquemini was the one where they synced the most. It's like watching two universes collide. Big Boy's rapid-fire Southern player charisma, and Andre 3000's alien genius unpredictability. And instead of clashing, they complement each other perfectly. The whole thing feels like a hip-hop tarot deck. It's spacey, soulful, wise, paranoid, romantic, and just a little bit unhinged. Spotty Yachty Dopalicious gave us 7 minutes of horns and storytelling with no hook, while Rosa Parks gave you a harmonica and a clap-along chorus in a rap song. Who was doing that in hip-hop? Nobody. And that's what made this album so wild. It wasn't trying to be commercial, it was just creative. You can feel Atlanta in every track, but it's not just strip clubs and slang. It's philosophy, it's imagination, a different kind of flex. While OUTKAST was building full-on sonic planets, the next guy was out here starting an empire. Number 8, Jay-Z's The Blueprint. Get this, Jay-Z dropped this album on 9/11, and people still found time to go buy it. That's how locked in Hove was. This was Jay-Z at his most elegant. No more mafioso dramatics, just clean soul samples, laser-focused flows, and effortless dominance. Kanye and Just Blaze basically built him a throne out of chipmunk soul loops. It sounds rich, but not flashy, like someone who knows he's made it but doesn't need to brag loud. And Takeover, man, that was the father of diss tracks. It was calculated, measured, and brutal. The way Jay dissected Nas and Prodigy, that's king energy. But there's still hunger in this album. You hear it in You Don't Know and Song Cry. At number 9, we have Travis Scott's Astroworld. Travis didn't make Astroworld to be lyrical. He made it to be an atmosphere. To me, this doesn't feel like an album. It feels like a theme park that only opens at night and only lets in people with a prescription for chaos. It's dreamy, dark, and floaty, but somehow still hits hard. And the transitions? Come on. The beat switch on Sicko Mode is more iconic than some entire careers. Stop Trying to Be God goes from gospel to post-apocalyptic without skipping a beat. It's like you're trapped in his mind and he's just flipping through vibes like TV channels. And don't get it twisted. Just because he's not rapping like Nas doesn't mean this album doesn't matter. It's cultural. It was the soundtrack to a whole aesthetic. Finally, before the era of Travis Scott's autotune and mood-based trap, there was an album that people widely consider one of the greatest albums of all time. Number 10, Lauryn Hill's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. If Astroworld was a neon-lit theme park ride, then Miseducation is like stepping into a warm, candlelit classroom where Lauryn Hill is both the teacher and the lesson. This album wasn't rap. It wasn't soul. It wasn't R&B. It was all of it, braided together with heartbreak, truth, and power. And the craziest part? It was her debut. One solo album. That's it. No follow-up, no deluxe re-release, no part 2. She walked in, dropped an all-time classic, and dipped like a myth. That kind of impact is unheard of. The album feels like a diary and a sermon at the same time. Doo-Wop was a hit, but it was also a warning. X Factor might be the most beautiful breakup song ever, and in between the tracks were literal classrooms with kids talking about love, identity, and just life generally. Lauryn's pen was different. She wasn't flexing, she was feeling. And when she did rap, oh, it was over. Last Ones is still one of the coldest disses ever, and she barely raised her voice. There's no other album like it. Not in hip-hop, not in R&B, not anywhere. Hip-hop's greatest albums aren't just music, they're stories in motion. And depending on where you are, who you are, and what you need, your list might look completely different. So now it's your turn. What album has to be on this list? What did I miss? Drop your picks in the comments and let's talk. And if you're still here, hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss the next amazing hip hop story.